very well known, but understood in heaven for sure. Tonight we have the PowerPoint. Olga, can you give me the little clicker?
No, you don't have it.
I don't have it. No need. Okay, you will flip. All right. Okay. Welcome to the IBC, the rapture, a pure reality. So let me say a word about what I said to you last week about the first fourth festival that comes at the spring. We're not in there, Passover, unleavened bread, first fruit, and the Feast of Weeks, basically, fulfilled by the first coming of the Messiah. That's all I have to say right now, because I think you remember them. Then, at the fall, month of September this year, all these dates basically correlate. Actually, Rosh Shana is yesterday, eh?
No, it was Monday and Tuesday.
Monday and Tuesday. That's the last three festivals, and they will be fulfilled by Yeshua's second coming. Okay? So what is very important to understand here, in a sense, is the fact that we're not imposing the people to celebrate them. That would be to be legalistic. But as a small messianic congregation, which we are, that's why that I constantly pray that we might have Jews to come in this church here. That's why we underline these things.
Sound on, camera on.
Camera not on. On? Good stuff. Yeah. Okay. Okay? That's the feast of Rosh Hashanah. I can't remember where I was. We're not imposing these feasts at all, okay? But being a messianic congregation, we need to underline them simply because they are biblical. And a struggle to do, it's not to get carried away with the rabbinic rules type of thing, okay? So tonight, the first part of the message done by me for about 30 minutes will concentrate on the messianic expectation, because the feast of Rosh Hashanah will be basically fulfilled by the rapture of the church. And I'm very at ease concerning that. I'm a strong believer in it, but it's not the topic without controversy. So it's an event to look forward to. That's why I gave the title, The Rapture, a Pure Reality, and that's why I went back to Genesis chapter 5 and also 2 Kings chapter 2 to make my point concerning these things. Then, at the end of the service, I will dismiss. We're going to have a short presentation by Louis, who will explain to you a little bit more the culture of the Jews, what they do in Jerusalem and what they do on the four corners of the planet. Next slide. No, the first one. Rosh Hashanah means the head of the year. Okay? You cannot find it in the Bible. It's used once in the Bible, but not in the context of the Feast of Tabernacle. It simply states that it was the beginning of the year. So Rosh Hashanah, it's the most common name of that festival amongst the Jews. Rosh is the head of something, and Hashanah is the head of the year. For them here, that's the most common against the Jews. It means the head of the year simply because they believe that the earth and the heavens were created on that day. That's rabbinic, okay? That's what the rabbi believe, and that's the most common. I personally prefer Yom Teruah, the day of the blowing of the trumpet, or the day of the blowing of the shofar, simply because there is a shofar being blown. You have a shofar that my sister will give you some details about it, and that is more in closeness with the scriptures and so on. Because the rabbis, they have a tendency, when there is no reason, if you read your Leviticus chapter 23 of last week, here, the rabbis does not provide, the scriptures does not provide a reason for blowing the shofar, and the rabbi, they force it, and they came up with many, many reasons why blowing the shofar, okay? So we have many rabbinic laws, and they're not all relevant, so that's why I want to concentrate on a more messianic perspective here. So, like I said, again, the rabbis, the teacher of Israel, the Hasidim, came up with many reasons for these things, and they're not quite accurate all the time. Okay? So when we talk about the shofar, because I like Yom Teruah, there is many sounds that you can do with a trumpet like this, the horn of a ram, actually. There is more than 100 types of blasts, which basically Louis will allude to. But the most important is called the Tikia Gdola. Go to the first slide here. The Tikia Gdola, this is the long blast, and you will see at the end with the video that she has prepared where the blower of the shofar, the trumpeter, take his breath and he lets go with the shofar as long as he can go here. That's what you should retain tonight. We call it Tikia Gdola. It means the great blast of the trumpet and so on here. And it's a sign of worship for the Jews, and most importantly, it's a sign of gathering together. Gathering together. What will happen to some of us at the rapture? At the rapture, there will be a long blast of the scriptures, not of the scriptures, but of the trumpet, and that's what will ignite the rapture of the church. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Okay? 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 16 to 17 goes like this. The Lord himself will descend from heaven. He doesn't touch the earth. He comes into the atmospheric heaven where you see a plane and burns and the birds that flies. He will come with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God. That's what Paul alludes to here. And the dead in Christ shall rise first. Then we that are alive, that are left, shall together with them be caught up. The word there, caught up, in Greek is the word arpazo, from which in English we have the word harpoon. So you harpoon a fish caught up in the clouds, because you see he is in the clouds, he never touched the earth, to meet the Lord in the air. He never touched the earth, and we shall ever be with the Lord. Okay? Paul talks about, he has in mind here a trumpet of some kind. And what he has in mind here is Leviticus chapter 3 that I gave you last week here. I'm going to talk about the common mistake in a moment of time. 1 Corinthians, next slide. Behold, I tell you a mystery. We all shall not sleep. Sleep here, it's not literal sleep. We all shall not sleep, it means to die physically. But we shall all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump. So Paul, again, who typed this on his laptop, has something in mind about a trumpet. For the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. For those who will get rapture, they will be changed, if you like. So, if you are with me, let me look at some comments about the rapture, some negative comments here. Some people don't believe in the rapture simply because that the word rapture is not in the Bible. You probably heard that. It is in the Bible because that's the word harpazo. But the word rapture per se, proper in English, is not in the scriptures here. Basically coming up with that argument, sorry for the term, but it shows an ignorance of the text. It's not quite a smart argument to come up with here. The second mistake here that people do, which I have on my heart, is they say that the last trumpet refers to Revelation 11, where John wrote about the 7 trumpets during the Great Tribulation. It doesn't make any sense to give that kind of interpretation, simply because when Paul wrote to Thessalonica and the church of Corinth, the book of Revelation was not even given yet. So he could not refer to it. He could not, basically, because he was assuming an amount of knowledge from the Thessalonians and from the Corinthians also. And when you invite Paul here, if I invite Paul today to speak to us, he will make an examination of the old and the new. So he was basically assuming his congregants to understand which trump he was talking about. And if you go with that route that he was talking, here Paul is talking about the John revelation and the 7 trumpet judgment, you need to place the church in the Great Tribulation, and this is not biblical either. So these are the negative comment about it. I have another one to share with you. The rapture, because it says here, we shall not all sleep. Next slide. Next slide, we go to Hebrews. Some people use this also. In the book of Hebrews, chapter 9, verse 27, it says this: Inasmuch as it is appointed unto men once to die, and after this comes judgment. Okay? This is a general principle, not an absolute rule. There are exceptions here. Okay? So there are some that basically will meet the Lord without tasting death. They are a minority though. Through the course of time, most of the humanity basically die and so on. But there will be exception. It's a general principle. Yes, generally people die. It's not an absolute rule. And that's why some hold the view that the two witnesses in Revelation will be Enoch and Elijah because they need to die. No, 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 no. What do I do with the church saints? Next slide here. Okay? Behold, I tell you a mystery. We all shall not sleep. So basically meaning it means that some of you, the youngest, I sure hope for her, and the youngest in the room might not see death. And it's a fact. We call it the rapture. That's the next step, eschatologically speaking, that we wait for. And we need to understand that this is a biblical principle, and that's why I wanted tonight in this message to bring clarification about it here. Okay? Because there are two types of exceptions to we shall not all die. There is those who die twice. Name me a person in the Bible that died twice. Correct. And all the people of the Old Testament, including Lazarus, because he died prior to the death of Christ, died twice. Lazarus was resurrected from the dead, okay, and he died again here. Another exception here is those who never died at all. And there are two guys in the scriptures who never died at all that are past tense people. And I read about them tonight, Enoch and Elijah. Okay? And again, I repeat the view that something that they are the two witnesses because they need to come back and die. But it's impossible. I'm giving you the answer right now. They cannot come back and die because right now they are in the presence of God glorified. They cannot be raptured, Enoch and Elijah, with this kind of body. Because this kind of body that you have right now cannot see God. So the proper technical word that goes there is that they have been translated, changed in a moment of time. And I will give you more detail about that in a moment of time. Okay? So that's what we will see. I talk about the inconsistency. Just a sec here. I might have mixed up my paper. Okay? So 1 Corinthians, do they go back to die? The next slide? No, the slide before? No. The people of the church that will be translated will never come back to die. How come we don't preach that we are the two witnesses, in a sense? So if you are raptured tomorrow, you're not going to come back to die. So that's why we need to be consistent in our teaching. Once again, I repeat, it's a general principle, not an absolute rule. Other reasons for this message here. Are you still with me?
Yes.
Despite the new setting?
Yes.
Okay. Other reasons for this message. Is the rapture something to be taken seriously? You do this, fine. But not all do. Because we have given it so much controversy nowadays that we have strong believers among the church that no longer believe in the rapture. It is very sad because it is a reality. Is it something fabricated by some denominations given to sensationalism? Thank you. Because otherwise I need to undo Enoch and I need to undo Elijah. Many do not believe in it. Why should I believe in it? That's the mentality. Well, the God I serve, the emphasis is me, myself, and I right now. The God I serve is the God that created the world behind you in 6 days. I will always refute any thinking of billions of years or millions of years in between. That's the God that I gave my life to. A God that can do it in 6 seconds, but he has chosen to do it in 6 days. He made a pure virgin, which is the center of the Christian faith. He took the Virgin Mary and his omnipotence. She became prominent by the power of the Holy Spirit. That's a doctrine that needs to be protected nowadays. Why would he able to take why would he not be able to take some without tasting death? And he will. Fasten your seatbelt. We're going close to that. I don't believe that at my age. I don't think. It's just a personal comment. I'm 61 years old in 3 months. I don't think I will see the rapture, but who am I? I might not be able to finish the message. But it's only my personal view on it. Concerning this, or my daughter, I don't know. Because we're getting close every day. So, beloved, this message is of pure importance for the center of your hope. Let's take the two examples of Enoch here. And Enoch walked with God after he begat Methuselah 300 years and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. Is the shortest of the passage. Is the one that lived the shorter because his father, Jared, lived 485 years more than him. Why? How come he lived only 65 years? He was taken up. He never died. And the one after him is Methuselah, 969. When you read the passage 5, it never says for him, and he died. So here, and all the days of Enoch were 365, and Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him here. The walk with God, it's a picture of fellowship and communion. Do you walk with God? I believe you do. You come on Thursday night, you commit the mileage, you commit to listen to a preacher with a thick accent. Sometimes that comes across a little bit kind of without sandpaper on the edge and so on. You walk with God, not because only you come here. I know you. I know quite good about your walk in Christ. Would you like the... Okay. You walk with God. So you walk with God, commune with God. Malachi, I forgot these scriptures. Do we have them? Malachi? No, the Malachi chapter 2 verse 6. Jude chapter 4 verses 14 and 15 talks about he was a preacher of righteousness. And Hebrews chapter 11 verse 5. I forgot these scriptures. Hebrews chapter 11 verse 5. By faith Enoch was taken up so that he would not see death. And he was not found because God took him. For he ordained the witness that before his being taken up, he was pleasing to God. What's my message? I can conclude right here, but I won't be pleasing to God. What is the way to be pleasing to God? It's to exercise faith, first of all, in what he did for us. He died, was buried, and rose again. It pleases him. You place your trust in him, not in yourself. So it's going to become pleasing to God. He was pleasing to God because I would like you to be taken up. If not, you will die physically. So be it. Because when you die physically, you go automatically in his presence as well. Enoch means dedication or concentration in Hebrew. And by divine grace, he was taken up. Let me tell you something. He was living in an age of lots of unrighteousness. There was nobody righteous on that planet. After that is the Noahic flood and the Nephilim in chapter 6. And in chapter 8 of Genesis, you have the flood. And everybody except Noah plus 7 here and Enoch was not righteous. And this one walked with God. So if you think that today it's hard to walk the Christian walk, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. He was a preacher of righteousness. Look at the crowd. Look at the lineup at the door. Nothing has changed at all. Okay? In Hebrews 5 here, dedication, that's what it means here. And when he says he was not, where it says he was not, the Hebrew word is enenu. It means he was translated, changed. Change in what way? Change in the way that corruption was now clothed with incorruption and mortality was now clothed with immortality in a moment of time. Not change the diaper. Sophia gets changed 3 times a day, but it's not the same change. And not the same smell, of course. Enoch's situation stands halfway between Adam and the flood. A most welcome testimony to life eternal and most study to all who struggle with God's justice. It's kind of funny because people complain on one thing, oh, the flood, how can a God so loving kill all the people and even the babies that were existed in that day? And that's the God that you serve. Can you please focus on the one that he took up? Yes. Oh, shh. Yes, I'm okay. She makes my day right now. Beautiful. Talk about caring. The issue is this. Talk about His grace right there. It's the grace of God. He took him because he was righteous here. The translation of Enoch was the indication in his days of immortality in the Bible. Not fully revealed. Progressive revelation. It was in his days. So the people that says, where is Enoch? We should bury him here. Is not died, was taken up. It was a testimony to them as life beyond the grave. In the imagination and the amount of revelation that was given for these people at the time with Job. I will see God also. Let's switch to 2 Kings, Olga, please. Elijah. You like 1st and 2nd Kings. We should do it after the Bible class here. Came to pass as they still went on. That's the Elijah and Elisha. And talked that, behold, there appeared chariot of fire and horses of fire, which parted them both asunder. One is left behind. The one left behind is Elisha, but he's not an unbeliever. You know what the Old English, which parted them asunder. Cut them off. One is gone, the other one stay. One taken away in judgment and so on. But here's not judgment. And Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. The whirlwind into heaven, that's the same thing of the pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night. What was it that was basically between Israel and protecting them? That was the Shekinah glory. That took up basically here the same as we have in Exodus and so on. That took up him into heaven. And Elisha saw it. And he cried, my father, the chariots of Israel and the horsemen thereof, and so on. Do we have 11 and 12? No, we don't have 11 and 12. Just let me go to 11 and 12. That's the rapture itself. On 11 and 12, the chariots and the horsemen are, in English, in Hebrew Bible, idiom for strength and protection. It separated the two of them, part asunder. The whirlwind was actually a storm with lightning and thunder. Lightning and thunder and wind and so on. It's like the pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night. Exodus chapter 13 verses 21. That's the Shekinah glory for Elijah. It appeared to Enoch in the past, and it will happen to the church in the future. Where we will come in the mid-heaven, they all see that. It will be seen. And all the drivers on the car, the chief on the train, the policeman, the plane pilot type of thing will be taken away those who believe type of thing. They will ask themselves, what are the Christians? And they will refuse to believe these things anyway. In verse 13 of the account here, I like this here. And he took up the mantle of Elijah that fell from him. That's where you have my joke here, because it's too bad I don't have my wallet. Okay? That's why I have that joke, because he went up and his mantle fell down, and Elijah took it, and he will part the river with Elijah. So you might have in your pocket a list of questions to ask God once you will be in heaven. I will ask him, how come he never saved my daughter? And how come my father was taken away at the age when I was 2? You will not be raptured with your list. It will be in the pocket of your mantle. And it's going to stay on the ground. Because once you will be together, you and I, in his presence, it's not going to be the time for questions. It's going to be finally the time to get on our knees and acknowledge his glory. He doesn't have to give you an account of what he does. That's my joke. It comes from there because the mantle of Elijah stayed there and Elisha took it and he did the miracles and so on. What's my next slide, Ani? That's the transfiguration. Came out with a nice picture here. I'm going to leave you with this, basically. When Jesus was transfigured, that's the transfiguration. You remember this? Jesus was transfigured on a mountain, very secluded place, Mount Hermon. You have the picture of Mount Hermon there. It was not Mount Tabor. Mount Tabor is traditional. It's Mount Hermon in the Galilee, Caesarea Philippi. For the first time, he released his glory. He took Peter, James, and John with him, and he got transfigured. So the envelope of his body of Jesus, he let the Shekinah glory penetrate the veil, the skin, and his glory was revealed. A little bit like this, if you want. I kind of like this sketch here. And 2 men appeared on his right and left side here. Moses and Elijah. My focus won't be on both right now because I'm concluding the message right now. In verse 31 of Luke, do I have verse 31 of Luke and 30? Behold, there talk with him 2 men. With him it's Jesus. 2 men, it's Moses and Elijah. Who were Moses and Elijah. Who appeared in glory. Really? You should circle that 10 times. Who appeared in glory. They appeared in glory and spake of his decease. The Greek word for decease is the word exodus. Because they speak of his decease, that he will come out of this world, which he was about to accomplish at Jerusalem. But my focus here, it's the appeared in glory. In the case of Moses, only his soul was glorified. Because Moses, as we speak, is still waiting for his resurrection here. In the case of Elijah, both the body and the soul is now glorified. And Elijah is no longer subject to die. He will not die again. He will come back before the Great Tribulation, but not to die. He's already glorified. In the case of Moses here, only the soul was glorified, but he appeared with his body. His body is still in the grave. But only the soul is glorified. And we have a few theological implications concerning that as I close right now. Go back to the photo. Moses and Elijah. Moses wrote how many books in the scriptures? 5. The Pentateuch. Okay, the law. Go. So, Moses at the Transfiguration represents the law. The 5 books of Moses. Elijah represents the prophets in general. The second part, the Hatuvim. Okay? Moses died. So he represents the resurrected saints. So those that you know that you die, and if you die, he is representing you right now at the Transfiguration. Because Moses died, and he does represent those who will be resurrected, you and I, if we die. Elijah never died. Who is he representing? He represents those who will be translated. So that's the theological implication here. So whether by way of resurrection or translation, there is and will be life after death. Where does he go with this? It's Rosh Hashanah. Simply because Rosh Hashanah will be fulfilled by the rapture of the church because of the trumpet principle, more precisely, the Tekiyah Gdolah. So when you speak rapture with people, be wise. Go to Genesis chapter 5 and go to 2 Kings chapter 2. Because when Elijah was translated, he had in the past a good example of it. Okay? And if you read the account of 2 King, the school of the prophets, they knew that he was going to taken away, and you don't see any arguments in the chapter 2 of 2 Kings. Oh, I don't believe that it's going to happen. They knew the sons of the prophets. Your master will be taken away twice. Yes, I know, be still. Your master will be taken away from you, Elisha. Yes, I know, be still. There is no argument there. How come we argue today about this? I don't get it. And then we have those two examples, and then we will have the example of the church saints that will go up to meet the Messiah without tasting death. Would you like it? That's it? No answer? No tasting death? That would be nice, actually. But it's part of our hope here. And that's why when I underline these festivals of Israel, I want to make everything possible to keep them Messiah-centered. Because Lois will come in less than a minute right now. She will show us Jews having fun. People that I like, the Hasidim. The head of the year, we will eat at the an apple dipped in honey. She will explain to you fun stuff. That if you go to Israel one day, if you develop friendship with a Jew, you won't go to their house and, what are you doing here? Oh, this is custom. You will understand these things to an extent. Might not happen, might happen. But the importance of these things, like next week, I will come back with the announcement, it's to keep it Messiah-centered. Would you pause it right now? Would you close it?